Three most commonly missed questions on your last test. This was the first one. 3 minus 3n is less than 12, okay? Now, I think we know each other well enough to know that pretty much everybody would have started off doing the first step properly. So let's go to here. Oh. And the first thing I would do is subtract 3 from both sides. Now, that was supposed to be underlined. Let me go back and underline it. There we go. Okay, take underline off. Now, once you do that, there's really two places where students can have difficulty with this particular question. The first place is what we call the danger moment. See how it says negative 3n here? Well, it's still going to be negative 3n. We have discussed the idea that how do you tell the difference between Mr. and Mrs. Smith in terms of which one's a boy and which one's a girl? Now, if you're looking at them, it's usually pretty obvious. But if you're not looking at them, then you have to go based on what's in front of Smith, namely Mr. and Mrs. If it says Mr. Smith, it's a boy, and Mrs. Smith, it's a girl. So what kind of 3n is this? Just like you look in front of Smith to see, are we talking about the boy or the girl, the mom or the dad? Now, if we look in front of 3n, what we have is a negative sign. So this is a negative 3n. This negative right here has nothing to do with the 3 that's in front of it. It only has to do with the 3n here, okay? And then it's going to be less than 12. So now, that's the key first mistake is people will forget the negative sign and they'll just put 3
Less
in.
than 9, not 12.
I'm sorry? Oh, you're right. Thank you. 9. Good. Now, the next thing I have to do is I have to realize that... Oh, sorry, I have to put the underlines here. Now I need to divide both sides by negative 3. And this is the second point where a student can make a mistake, okay? Whenever you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative, you must remember to switch the inequality. See, when you divide by 3, you divide by 3. But when you divide by a negative, you are negating. And to negate means to make it its opposite. So I'm dividing negative 3 by negative 3. So that becomes a positive 1. I'm going to do this step next. A positive 9 divided by a negative 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Positive 9 divided by the negative is to negate the positive, which makes a negative 3. But the question now is what sign goes in the middle? And the answer is a greater than sign. Now, if you had divided by a positive 3, you wouldn't change the sign. But when you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative, you change everything, and that includes the inequality. And that's because to negate an inequality of less than is to make the inequality greater than. Or if it was greater than and you negate it, you make it less than. Okay? So that's a really common mistake. And I'm glad that we were able to catch on to it. Let's have you guys try this one right now. Okay, I'll give you a minute or so to get that done. Even a little less, to be honest with you. So try to do it as quickly as you can because I'm recording this and I can only record to 500 megabytes, which means I've got 250 to go. In an effort to save time, I'm going to write the first step because I think everybody will do the same first step. Okay, so I subtract 5 from both sides, which I think everybody would do. I don't think there's any great mystery there. And what I'm left with is negative 4n. Now, that's that first mistake. A lot of kids, they bring down positive 4n, and they kind of lose track of that negative sign. But you always peek in front. That 4n is a negative 4n. Is going to be greater than negative 15, and negative 5 is negative 20. Okay, next up. Since the n is being multiplied by negative 4, I now need to divide by negative 4. And here's the new step. Well, I don't want to say new, but the step we need to reinforce. Whenever you multiply or divide by, I don't care what you divide into. I only care what you divide by. Whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you always switch everything, all the signs. So I get positive n is less than 5. And that's my answer. N is less than 5. Okay? Any questions about that? All right. So I will be sure in some future homeworks to add some questions like that. Absolutely. Okay. Next up, talks about the 3 angles of a triangle. And I will get going on that in just a minute.